This is my third podcast, guys. And I've invited Karina Barnes on the show today to discuss career coaching for HR professionals. As you already know, we are a CIPD centre and we focus on delivering CIPD qualifications and HR solutions. But we've also got a new one, which is NOCN qualifications, but we can discuss that at another stage. But I wanted to introduce Karina Barnes for you today. And she'll talk a bit about her background and a bit about, what she does within the coaching arena. Hi, Karina.
Hello, hi. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really excited to be doing this, and hopefully it will help and inspire people. We shall see. So I'm Karina, and I mean a little bit of background about me briefly. I've spent a huge amount of time in the world of recruitment, and because of that, within the world of HR. So I started off on the recruitment agency side. And then I've worked in-house doing recruitment for a really long time in different industry sectors, financial services mostly, pharmaceuticals, real estate as well, in-house, and really enjoyed it. And then moved more into the talent management side, and looking at what people need to do to progress their careers, and that's partly in the softer skills area. What do you do to make sure you're moving forward and what's needed to get to the next level beyond just working hard, all of that good stuff. And then I had 2 children and decided to just do my own thing. So I set up my own company, became a qualified career coach, a qualified coach with the ICF, International Coaching Federation, and now focus very much on the coaching side of things at all levels across the board with different people with different specialisms, not just HR. So, HR plus a lot of other areas too. And training in soft skills, other things like networking skills, assertiveness, how to interview people, that kind of thing. And a little bit on the recruitment strategy side, helping businesses with their recruitment strategy. But the core thing is really this soft skills, and how do you progress, and how do you have personal impact, and all these things that we'll talk a little bit more about in the next hour.
Perfect. So I asked Karina to join me today really because as a HR practitioner and having worked in the field, I've often felt unsure about my next step and unsure about certain situations that I've been in, and not having anybody there around me to discuss or to even coach me to deal with certain matters that would have helped me within the organisation and would have helped me build my credibility. So I'm a firm believer that HR practitioners should have a coach, and a coach will be somebody who's there to help support them in their career journey, and somebody who's there to help guide them with giving them some direction when they have sticky situations to deal with in the organisation. So my first question to Karina is really, what is career coaching? What does it involve?
Yeah. And it's a good question, because I think people have different ideas of what career coaching looks like. What is the definition of it? And I think people have 2 quite different definitions. One, in a sense, is what career should I do? Or I want to make a career transition to something completely different. I think for the purposes of this, there's a little bit of that. Perhaps do you want to specialise in HR? How would you go about doing that? So there is that element, definitely. I think a lot more of it, and especially what we'll concentrate on here, is actually as Natasha says, it's kind of, how do you progress? Having somebody by your side who isn't telling you what to do, is more about guiding you on what to do and helping you find your own answers as to how do you progress, how do you get to the next level, what's needed. Because I think to begin with, in the early stages of a career, kind of hard work is enough, isn't it? You churn out a good product and people recognize it and they think, oh, that's great. But suddenly you get to a more senior level, things are more complex. You've got difficult characters to deal with, things that aren't black and white. And how do you navigate those situations? And career coaching can be hugely helpful in that sort of field to make sure you know how to navigate and how to step forward, really. I think put yourself forward in the right kind of position.
Perfect. So career coaching is more or less giving you the tools to help you navigate difficult situations, giving you the tools to help you be more confident
Yeah,
within your role, and providing you with some kind of direction in terms of future progression or options that could be
yeah.
available to you within your current profession. Um,
It,
Perfect. And for career coaching for HR professionals, because I see the benefits of this, and if I think about my years
mm,
working in HR and how I could have benefited if I had a career coach
mhm.
alongside me throughout my profession, for future HR professionals, how would it benefit them to have a career coach?
I think hugely. Interesting. I think
Mm,
the one difference is that HR professionals tend to be the very last people to ever have any kind of career coaching. They're so
mm,
busy looking after everybody else and making sure people in the business have got some kind of career coaching and support and guidance and help, that they don't think of doing it for themselves.
mm,
Um, and I think it's just as important for HR professionals,
mm,
more so in some ways, especially if you're in a standalone role, that you have somebody who you can bounce these various ideas off, that you can have a sounding board, especially given the confidentiality of different things you might be dealing with. You can't just go and talk to somebody in the business about it and say,
mm,
what do you think I should do? How do I handle this sort of
mm,
thing? Um, and I think for HR, there's such a lot of different strands to it with HR. You're in a lot of cases all things to all people, and trying to solve so many problems.
mm,
And I think it's hugely important that people are able to have someone supporting them to build their resilience. You hope that you're in a company where in HR you can be on the front foot, that actually you are the one who's bringing new ideas, new ways of doing things. You're ahead of the game in terms of policy and process, etc. But also, of course, quite often in HR, things come to you when it's become a problem. And I
mm,
think that's rarer in other departments. HR deals with a lot of issues and problems and challenges a lot of the time. And I think having a coach there who can help you partly navigate the issues, but actually also build your resilience to be able to deal with that the whole time. How do you actually consistently deal with that level of challenge and problems coming your way can be invaluable, and especially if you're in a standalone role, because it can feel quite isolating, I think, in a lot of ways.
mm,
I think hugely it helps with things like relationship management. If you want to progress in a
mm,
career, a huge amount of that is relationship management. It's about getting that credibility. How does
mm,
anyone in the business, particularly within HR, there's always that feeling you need to get that credibility to be able to then be given the interesting stuff. If you're then the one who's saying is trusted and has those relationships at a senior level across the board, they're going to give you the interesting, challenging projects to work on,
mm,
which is important. So I think again, it can help you with navigating those relationships and really complex relationships, and especially at a senior level where you might have people with very strong opinions kind of interacting with each other, and how do
mm,
you go about navigating that. um I think also sort of about navigating things like HR in a slightly a consulting role. I mean, even if you're internal,
mm,
quite often you are acting as a sort of a guiding consultant. What kind of solutions should a company be implementing? How do you guide some of these senior people to adopt the right approach? And a lot of that are things of looking at it from their point of view. And I think a coach can help you stand back from your situation and think, how am I going to get them on side? It's not just about talking about HR, it's talking about what's important to the business,
mm,
and really help look at what all those options are of how to um, get them on board and get them interested and get them excited about this, and finally find their way to the right kind of solution. So it can help you stand back quite a lot from that point of view as well. Um, and I think the soft skills, the personal development, people always talk about these things like having personal impact, and that kind of thing helps build your credibility, of course. How do you
mm,
have personal impact? And what actually does personal impact look like? A lot of that
mm,
is sort of ability,
mm,
knowledge, experience. How do you get that visibility? And coaching works through all of those things.
mm,
It's no good being you being good at your job if no one else knows you're good at your job.
Yeah.
You need to make sure you're able to kind of advertise. It sounds pretty awful,
Yeah.
doesn't it? But I
Yeah.
think
Yeah. We always say
people
sell
feel
yourself to the
uncomfortable.
business. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and people do feel uncomfortable
Mm,
with it, but it's finding a way that's comfortable for you to make sure you are able to
mm,
demonstrate all of these things, be assertive, and find ways of doing that too. And that's again something a coach can really help with.
mm. Yeah. And I like the idea that it's an external person, because there was always this argument of whether
Yeah.
coach should be internal or an external. And I'm a firm believer in external coaching, because I always believe that in the organization, where there's remits of politics, and coaching can be seen as, you need more help, you're not
Yes.
sufficient enough or proficient enough in your job, and
Yes.
actually it could be belittled rather than praised, that you're realizing that there's some areas of that you need to develop within, or you need some support within,
Yes.
as opposed to seeing it positive, it's seen as a negative. So oftentimes I find that external coaches come with a fresh view of the business, and come without any knowledge of previous kind of politics, and could view the situation differently.
Yeah.
So I believe external coaching really does work in organizations, and upskilling a HR professional through coaching and giving them that person to soundboard off, is really helpful. I really do feel so, and I'm hoping that after this program, quite a few HR professionals feel that way, because I think HR, like you said, can be quite standalone, isolated, and there's many situations where you're working on projects, or on a sensitive issue, and then you can't really discuss this with anybody. So
Yes.
that that coach being there to be a soundboard is really helpful. Um,
Yes.
so
It's
the next,
interesting what you say about
yeah,
the external person, because I think that's important across the board,
mm,
whatever department you're in. As you say, there is still that thing of like, is this remedial? Why am I having coaching? And I get much less
mm,
of that now, but I do occasionally still have people saying, why am I here? Is it, I'm like, no. People would not be investing money in you if it wasn't for positive reasons. The
yeah,
company wants you to be doing really
yeah,
well, and they can
yeah,
see the potential in you. But I think particularly for HR, the idea of it being an external person is very difficult to openly
mm,
internally talk about the kind of challenges you're facing, because almost all of them will be confidential in some way, or
mm.
awkward to talk about. So I think it's really important to have someone external. Yeah.
So we've talked about career coaching and why we think it's really
Mm,
a positive thing for HR practitioners. Um,
mm,
and we've kind of delved a bit more about, what does it involve? So um,
mm,
what does coaching involve for the HR practitioner who decides that I'm going to take this coaching route, or I feel that I would need to invest in a coach because there's some areas of development or guidance that
mm.
I believe that the organization um, um, can't support me with, but an external person would be able to support me with. What would it involve, Karina?
What involved?
Mm,
So, on a really kind of a very practical sense, it can involve anything from literally one session, on
mm,
a video call or face to face, normally about an hour. It depends how the coach works and what
mm,
time the individual has available. But normally speaking, because one session
mm,
can actually have quite a lot of impact, I have to
mm,
say, particularly if you're bringing a specific issue to the table and saying either this situation I have, I don't know what to do with it, or actually I feel I'm lacking in assertiveness, or this specific thing, can we work on that specific thing? It can have quite an impact. Most people, I have to say, would tend to go for something more than that, and it
mm,
normally up to about 6 sessions normally then works, and then perhaps an
mm,
ad hoc check-in if you need it. So that's kind of on the practical basis of how it works. In terms of sort of what you'd expect in a sense from the HR person getting coached, is really a willingness to be very honest with yourself and with the coach, talking
mm,
about genuinely, this is what I am finding challenging, and bringing examples of where they found things challenging, or even where things have gone well, so you can
Mm.
start to examine, well, where are the differences here? You know, what are you finding is working?